Available at audible.com. The Hyde Effect by Steve Vance. Read by Edison McDaniels. 3. Such Things. On the night of July 21st, the residents of Linview, California were very wary, and understandably so. At some time during the previous night, 2 members of their community had been horribly slaughtered by a savage killer who had already earned the ugly title of Animal Man in the evening edition newspapers. What had seemed so deliciously terrifying in the protection of daylight became shadowed and too literally terrifying when the darkness came. Maniacs were seldom predictable, and this meant that any one of those who had listened intently to the details of the deaths of Stanley and Victoria Gretler might well be joining the unlucky couple as the objects of startled discussion by the next afternoon. In spite of the real fears of the citizens of Linview, and the edgy readiness of 2 police departments, midnight came and went without a recurrence of the brutal attacks. Friday, July 22nd, evolved into just another hot summer day, and equally uneventful days soon followed. This period of normalcy allowed the intriguing and bone-chilling memories of the biggest event to hit town in 40 years to fade toward history and future dissection. Though the murders weren't moved a step toward solution during the following month, even the official investigators began to replace the facts of the case in their minds with more immediate concerns. In Los Angeles, Chronicle columnist Douglas Morgan largely dismissed the incident from his thoughts as soon as the detailed death reports of the strangely murdered yachtsman reached him from back east. The unfortunate people had been the victims of an elaborate revenge scheme enacted by a pair of former employees. Since nothing other than the unusual viciousness of the crime seemed to be out of the ordinary, he eliminated the Gretlers from his future investigations within a week. Murders as such did not automatically fall into his chosen field of research. In fact, though Morgan had turned up a lot of unexplainable facts during his career, he had not produced anything solid enough to convince his colleagues that he was engaged in work more important than the newspaper's resident satirist. Blake Corbett tried to wash the images that he had seen in the Gretler home from his mind, since they definitely did not represent anything that he wished to incorporate, sick pun, into his work. He decided to leave that stuff to the type of men's magazines that monthly appeared with semi-nude, bound ladies decorating their covers. But the act of wiping out the grisly, painful memories was more difficult than he had anticipated. At the oddest moments, visions of the darkened interior of the hot room flashed before his eyes, and the very casual way in which the dismembered bodies of 2 human beings had been strewn about it never failed to freeze the full extent of his spine. It reminded him of a celebration of perversion. He had never before seriously questioned his mental health, despite the fact that he had made a career out of presenting horror and deaths in a commercial form. But the Gretler murders changed even this. After all, he had paid to be tipped to this display of the depths of savagery. His years of publication aside, Corbett was still something of an introvert at heart, and this occasionally directed him into bouts of rather morbid self-inspection. But his stark memories and his guilt slowly dissolved as the days passed, and he swung out of his mild depression. Part of this success was attributable to the realization that, while he had been interested in the subject due to his profession, Louis Angelini, who had called him sick, had his feelers out for similar examples out of greed, pure and simple. By the time a month had passed, the awful creature who had invaded the home of Stanley and Victoria Gretler was practically forgotten. Forgotten, too, by nearly everyone who had been connected with the incident, was the fact that the night of July 20th had featured a sharply etched and vivid full moon. Available at audible.com.